Imagine walking into a crowded room. There's laughter, chatter, clinking cups, selfies being taken, conversations flowing. Yet somewhere in that noise, your eyes fall upon one face. She's upset, restless, constantly judging everything around her. Look at that dress, look at her attitude, look at his car. You've met her before, haven't you? Maybe not her exactly, but someone like her. And sometimes, if we are brutally honest, we've been her, at least for a moment. Now, before you judge the statement, pause. When I say stupid woman, I'm not talking about someone with low intelligence or poor education. I'm talking about a woman who forgets her own worth, who lets her emotions, insecurities, and comparisons steal away her natural grace. Because intelligence is knowing how to make things work, but wisdom is knowing when to let go. Every woman is born with divine strength. She can nurture, she can inspire, she can transform hearts. But sometimes in the noise of the world, she forgets that strength. She starts to compare her journey with others, her beauty with others, her relationship with others, and that comparison slowly eats away her peace. A wise woman knows her value, but a foolish one spends her life trying to prove it. My friends, I've met so many people across the world, CEOs, students, homemakers, celebrities, and I've realized something very interesting. The most miserable people are not the poorest, they're the ones who've forgotten gratitude. And the same applies here. A woman may have everything, money, beauty, fame, yet if she lacks gratitude and awareness, she can live in deep unhappiness. Let's be honest. Society today constantly tells women, you're not enough, you're not thin enough, you're not rich enough, you're not beautiful enough. And this poison of not enoughness is exactly where foolishness begins. Because the moment you start defining yourself through someone else's lens, you lose your inner wisdom. You stop living and you start performing. I remember once meeting a young lady after a session. She came to me in tears and said, Gaur Gopal Dasji, why do people always hurt good women? I smiled and said, my dear, the problem is not that people hurt good women, the problem is that good women sometimes forget to set boundaries. And she looked at me in surprise. You see, wisdom isn't just about being kind, it's about knowing when to be kind and to whom. So when we talk about the 7 signs of a stupid woman, we're not judging anyone, we're reflecting. This is not about putting women down. It's about lifting them up by identifying the behaviors that dim their light. Because a foolish woman reacts, but a wise woman responds. A foolish woman complains, but a wise woman corrects herself. And this reflection is not only for women, it's for everyone. Because each of us has both energies within, masculine and feminine, intellect and emotion, strength and softness. But today, we'll look through the feminine lens, the nurturing, emotional, intuitive energy that when clouded by ignorance, becomes its own enemy. Let me take you on a journey through these 7 signs, not to criticize, but to awaken awareness, because awareness is the first step to transformation. The first sign is constant comparison. Have you noticed how easy it is to scroll through social media and suddenly feel inadequate? You see someone's vacation pictures, someone else's engagement ring, someone's glowing skin, and suddenly you start doubting yourself. Why not me? Why is her life better than mine? And without realizing, that seed of jealousy begins to sprout. The problem with comparison is that it steals both joy and focus. You stop appreciating what you have and start resenting what you don't. A foolish woman compares her behind the scenes with someone else's highlight reel. She forgets that everyone has a hidden battle, a private pain, a story you'll never know. I once read a beautiful line, the reason we struggle with insecurity is because we compare our behind the scenes with everyone else's highlight reel. Isn't that true? A wise woman, instead of comparing, learns. She says, if she can do it, maybe I can too. The loudest voice in the room is also the most insecure one. Wise people don't speak to impress. They speak to express. I remember once I was on a flight, sitting next to a lady who spoke non-stop about her job, her husband, her friends, her struggles. For almost 2 hours, she didn't pause for a single question. When the plane landed, she said, "You're such a great conversationalist." Laughs, I hadn't said more than 10 words. You see, most people don't want to listen. They want a stage to perform on. But listening is a superpower. It builds trust, connection, and understanding. Foolish women talk to be heard. Wise women listen to heal. The more you listen, the more you learn. The more you talk without listening, the more mistakes you make. So, my dear sisters, if you find yourself talking endlessly, pause. Ask questions. Be curious. Silence is not weakness, it's wisdom. Because sometimes the answers you're searching for come not through your words, but through your quiet reflection. And this brings us to the third sign, being overly emotional without awareness. Emotions are beautiful, they are the colors of the soul. But when emotions control you, they become storms instead of strength. A foolish woman lets her emotions drive her decisions. A wise woman uses emotions as indicators, not dictators. You see, tears are powerful when they are used for healing, but destructive when used for manipulation. Anger is natural when it defends your values, but dangerous when it attacks others. Wisdom lies in balancing the heart with the mind. We were speaking about emotions, how they can be your best friend or your worst enemy. Have you noticed that when emotions take over, logic quietly leaves the room? Smiles. A foolish woman doesn't realize this. She reacts before thinking, speaks before understanding, and regrets after the damage is done. But a wise woman, she breathes, she pauses. She feels her feelings, but she doesn't become them. One day I met a lady who told me, "Guruji, I get angry so fast. I shout at my children, my husband, and then I cry all night feeling guilty." I asked her, "What do you do when your phone battery shows 1%? She said, "I plug it in." I smiled and said, "Exactly. When your emotional battery shows 1%, don't explode. Recharge." Meditation, prayer, a walk in nature, silence, these are charges for the soul. So the third sign is letting emotions control your peace. The cure is awareness. The art of stepping back and asking, is this reaction helping me or hurting me? Now, let's look at the fourth sign, gossiping and criticizing others. This one. You know, gossip is like junk food, tastes good, but leaves you feeling sick. When a woman spends her time discussing the flaws of others, she drains her own energy. It's like carrying a bag of garbage and wondering why life smells bad. I once read a line that said, "Small minds discuss people, average minds discuss events, great minds discuss ideas." The foolish woman fills her conversations with complaints about others. The wise woman fills her mind with ideas to uplift others. Imagine if all that energy used for gossip were used for growth, how different life would be. You see, gossip gives a momentary thrill, but creates long-term emptiness. A wise woman blesses even those who wrong her, because she knows karma never forgets an address. A lady once asked me, "But Gaur Gopal Das ji, what if someone really deserves to be criticized?" I said, "Then pray for them. Because your criticism won't change them, but your prayers might change you. The moment you stop speaking negatively, your mind becomes lighter. Negativity may entertain the mind for a while, but it always exhausts the heart." Now, the fifth sign, seeking validation constantly. In today's digital world, we live on likes, comments, and compliments. Every beep of the phone becomes a small dose of happiness. But a foolish woman builds her self-worth on these temporary signals. When they stop coming, she feels lost. You know, once a young influencer came to me. She said, "Sir, I have over 1 million followers, but I feel so lonely." I asked her how many of those followers would come if you fell sick tomorrow. She looked down and whispered, "Maybe none." You see, external validation is like sugar, sweet but not nutritious. The more you crave it, the weaker your self-esteem becomes. A wise woman doesn't wait for the world to clap. She claps for herself. She knows her worth whether anyone notices or not. My dear friends, remember, approval is a drug, freedom is the cure. The sixth sign, living in the past and refusing to grow. Some women hold on to old wounds like trophies. They keep replaying what someone said, what someone did, how someone hurt them years ago. The pain becomes their identity. But here's the truth. You can't start a new chapter if you keep rereading the old one. A foolish woman says, "I'll never forgive." But forgiveness isn't a favor to the other person. It's freedom for yourself. When you forgive, you don't erase the memory, you release its control over you. I once met a woman who hadn't spoken to her sister in 15 years. I asked her why. She said, "She betrayed me." I said, "And how many years of your happiness will you give her in return?" She cried. That day, she called her sister. That night, she slept peacefully for the first time in years. Don't let your past become your prison. Let it be your teacher. The wisest women don't deny their pain. They transform it into purpose. And now, the seventh sign, ego disguised as confidence. Ego is sneaky. It wears nice clothes, smiles politely and whispers, "I'm just being confident." But there's a fine line between confidence and arrogance. A foolish woman says, "I know everything." A wise woman says, "I'm still learning." Once a girl said proudly, "I don't need anyone." I said, "That's not strength, that's fear." True confidence isn't rejecting help, it's accepting help without losing dignity. Ego builds walls, wisdom builds bridges. A foolish woman needs to be right. A wise woman seeks to understand. Ego wants to win the argument, wisdom wants to win peace. Remember, the tallest tree bows the most. Now that we've walked through the 7 signs, comparison, talking too much, emotional impulsiveness, gossip, validation seeking, living in the past, and ego, let's look at the deeper problem. The real problem is disconnection from the self. When a woman forgets who she truly is, a being of grace, compassion, and strength, she starts chasing substitutes. She chases attention instead of love, competition instead of growth, pride instead of peace. Imagine a beautiful lamp. When it's connected to power, it glows effortlessly. But when disconnected, it's just an object, dull and fragile. Similarly, when a woman disconnects from her inner power, she loses her light. Society often teaches women how to look beautiful, but rarely how to feel beautiful. It teaches how to earn, how to succeed, how to multitask, but not how to be at peace. That's why we have more anxiety, comparison, and emptiness than ever before. Foolish woman tries to fill her emptiness with things: shopping, attention, control. But the wise woman fills it with stillness. She reconnects to her soul through prayer, meditation, service, and gratitude. So, what's the solution? It begins with self-awareness. The ability to pause and ask, why am I reacting like this? Why am I comparing myself to her? Why am I seeking their approval? Awareness is like turning on the light in a dark room. Suddenly, the monsters under the bed don't look so scary anymore. The next step is self-education. Read good books, listen to spiritual talks, surround yourself with wise people who challenge you, not flatter you. Because flattery feeds the ego, wisdom feeds the soul. And finally, self-transformation. Change your habits, not just your hashtags. Laughs, speak kindly, even when angry. Choose peace over proving a point. Choose growth over gossip. Because the real beauty of a woman is not in her clothes or her face, it's in her heart. So now, my friends, we've seen how foolishness isn't about intelligence. It's about forgetting wisdom. It's not about education. It's about awareness. Let's talk about how to heal. How to rediscover that quiet power that every woman is born with. You see, life is not about avoiding pain. It's about learning from it. A foolish woman says, "Why me?" A wise woman says, "What is this teaching me?" The first step toward wisdom is acceptance. Acceptance doesn't mean weakness. It means maturity. It's the moment you stop fighting reality and start working with it. When something hurts, instead of asking, "Why did this happen?" ask, "What can I learn from this?" Because every situation, good or bad, is a classroom. And you, my dear, are the student. 1 LA. They once told me, "Gaur Gopal Das ji, I have lost everything, my relationship, my job, my peace. I looked at her and said gently, then you are in the best place to find yourself again. Sometimes when life breaks us, it's not punishment, it's preparation. The seed has to crack before the tree can grow. The second step is gratitude. Gratitude turns what we have into enough. A foolish woman counts what's missing, a wise woman counts what's present. Try this simple exercise tonight. Before sleeping, write down 3 things you're grateful for. They can be as small as a warm cup of tea, a friend's text, or the fact that you made it through another day. Gratitude is not an event, it's a lifestyle. Once you practice gratitude regularly, you'll notice something magical. The noise inside quiets down, jealousy fades, comparison weakens, the heart becomes softer, calmer, lighter. The third step is forgiveness. Forgiveness is not about saying what they did was right. It's about saying, I choose peace over poison. When you carry resentment, you're drinking the poison and hoping the other person dies. Let it go. You deserve peace more than you deserve revenge. I often say you cannot drive forward by looking in the rearview mirror. Let the past be your lesson, not your prison. The fourth step is self-respect. Love yourself enough to set boundaries. Don't let people walk over you and call it kindness. A wise woman knows that saying no at the right time is more loving than saying yes out of fear. You know, people will treat you how you allow them to. If you constantly tolerate disrespect, you silently teach others that it's acceptable. Remember, compassion doesn't mean being a doormat. It means caring without compromising your dignity. And the fifth step, spiritual connection. This is the deepest one. We are not just bodies with emotions, we are souls with experiences. When you start seeing yourself as a soul, divine, eternal, beautiful, all foolishness fades away naturally. Meditation, chanting, prayer, these are not old traditions, they are timeless medicines. They bring clarity to confusion and strength to weakness. A foolish woman says, I don't have time to meditate. A wise woman says, I don't have time not to meditate. Because when you sit in silence for even 10 minutes a day, you plug your lamp back into the source. And here's the beautiful irony. Once you connect to something higher, you start treating others with more humility. Spiritual strength makes you softer, not harder. The stronger the tree, the deeper its roots in the ground. Now let's speak about relationships, because that's where most foolishness shows itself first. Have you noticed how easily misunderstandings happen? One message not replied to, one tone misread, and suddenly hearts are broken. A foolish woman reacts immediately, blocks, deletes, curses, laughs. A wise woman breathes and asks, could there be another side to this? Patience is underrated. Most relationships are lost not because of lack of love, but because of lack of pause. If you can pause before reacting, you can save 1,000 apologies later. I once told a young wife, if you want your husband to change, stop fighting him. Start inspiring him. You see, transformation never comes through shouting, it comes through shining. The more peaceful you become, the more powerful your influence. So instead of trying to change others, work on yourself. Because when you change, everything around you begins to shift naturally. Now let's enter the call to action. My dear sisters, if any of these 7 signs touched your heart, don't feel guilty, feel grateful. Awareness is a blessing. The fact that you can recognize where you need to grow means your inner light is all red. Why shining? Here's what I invite you to do starting today. 1. Observe your thoughts. When jealousy, anger, or insecurity arises, don't suppress it, watch it. Awareness itself weakens negativity. 2. Choose your company wisely. You can't stay positive if you're surrounded by people who love gossip and drama. Keep friends who push you to become better, not bitter. 3. Invest in self-growth. Read 1 page of a good book daily. Listen to something uplifting. Feed your mind as lovingly as you feed your body. 4. Serve. Nothing purifies the heart like service. Volunteer, help someone without expecting anything back. Service turns pain into purpose. 5. Pray. Even if you don't believe in religion, believe in goodness. Take a moment every day to connect to something higher than yourself. It could be God, the universe, or simply gratitude. Let me share a story to seal this lesson. Once a woman came to a monk and said, "Master, I feel so small, so insignificant. Everyone around me shines brighter. What should I do?" The monk handed her a candle and said, "Go light all the candles in the temple with yours." She did so. After lighting dozens of candles, she returned and said, "Master, my candle is still burning bright." He smiled and said, "That's how wisdom works. When you share your light, it doesn't dim yours, it multiplies it." My dear friends, the world doesn't need perfect women, it needs present women. Women who are aware, kind, balanced, and wise. So the next time life tempts you to compare, gossip, or react, pause, take a breath and whisper, "I choose wisdom," and watch how your life begins to shift. Quietly, beautifully, powerfully. Because when a woman becomes wise, she doesn't just change her home, she changes generations. She becomes a source of peace, strength, and grace. And that, my dear friends, is the true purpose of life. Not to be better than OT, hers, but to become better for others. So to all the women listening, don't chase perfection, chase peace. Don't seek validation, seek wisdom. Don't fight for attention, flow with purpose. And to the men listening, honor the women in your life, encourage their growth, respect their boundaries. Because when you uplift one woman, you uplift an entire family, an entire community, an entire future. No, my friends, sometimes wisdom doesn't come dressed in long lectures or sacred texts. It comes disguised as everyday moments. A tear, a smile, a mistake, a lesson. Life is an extraordinary teacher. The question is, are we willing students? A foolish woman rushes through life collecting things. A wise woman walks through life collecting meanings. Let me share a little story. A young lady once asked her grandmother, "Daddy, how did you stay peaceful when life was so hard?" The grandmother smiled and said, "Beta, when I was your age, I was like boiling water, hot, impatient, and restless. Life kept adding salt, disappointments, losses, betrayals. But I learned that if I became the ocean, no amount of salt could make me bitter." The girl asked, "How did you become the ocean?" Daddy replied softly, "By expanding my heart through forgiveness, patience, and faith." That, my friends, is wisdom. Not the absence of storms, but the ability to stay calm within them. We live in a world where everyone wants to be right, but very few want to be kind. The foolish woman argues to prove a point. The wise woman speaks to build peace. I once witnessed a beautiful moment after a seminar. Two women had been in a silent fight for months. After the session, one walked up to the other, folded her hands, and said, "Let's start again." Tears rolled down both faces. That one gesture healed more than words ever could. Sometimes the bravest thing a woman can do is say, "I forgive," because forgiveness doesn't change the past, it changes the future. Now, let's talk about something we all need: purpose. A foolish woman lives day by day, complaining that nothing changes. A wise woman wakes up and asks, "How can I make a difference today?" Purpose gives you direction when emotions pull you in 100 directions. When I visit schools, I often tell young girls, don't just dream of looking good, dream of doing good. Because beauty attracts eyes, but goodness attracts hearts. I once met a nurse in a cancer ward. She said, "Every day I lose patience, but I still smile." I asked, "How do you do that?" She said, "Because every smile I give might be someone's last memory of kindness." That's purpose. That's wisdom. A foolish woman seeks success that impresses the world. A wise woman seeks significance that blesses the world. My dear sisters, the time has come to redefine what it means to be strong. Strength isn't shouting to prove you're right, it's standing firm in silence when the world misunderstands you. It's wiping your own tears and still showing compassion to others. There's a quiet heroism in everyday women. The mother who wakes up at 4 a.m. to pack tiffins, the daughter caring for aging parents, the woman starting over after heartbreak. These are not ordinary acts, these are silent revolutions. You don't need a crown to be a queen. Your courage is your crown. Let's take a moment of reflection. Close your eyes and ask yourself, am I comparing? Am I complaining? Am I chasing validation? If yes, smile. Because now you've caught the thief that was stealing your joy. The moment you become aware, you already begin to change. Awareness is like turning on the light. Darkness disappears instantly. The purpose of this message isn't to label anyone as stupid. It's to remind us that foolishness is a temporary fog that every one of us can walk out through self-respect, gratitude, and love. Let me tell you another small story. Once, a sculptor was carving an idol of a goddess. His friend asked, "Why are you working on the statue at night? No one will even see these details in the dark." The sculptor smiled and said, "The goddess will see." Wisdom is exactly that, doing the right thing even when no one is watching. The foolish woman asks, "Who will notice?" The wise woman whispers, "The divine always notices." And so, my dear friends, when you wake up tomorrow morning, start your day differently. Instead of checking your phone, check your mind. Ask yourself, am I grateful? Am I peaceful? Am I ready to grow today? Before you criticize someone, compliment someone, before you gossip, pray, before you compare, care. Make every interaction a reflection of your inner wisdom. Let's imagine a world full of wise women, women who lift other women instead of competing, women who teach their daughters to value kindness over glamour, women who remind their sons that strength means respect, not dominance. That world would have fewer broken hearts and more open minds. So here is my final call to action. Be the wise woman. Even when the world tests your patience, choose peace. Even when others speak harshly, choose grace. Even when you stumble, choose to rise again with humility. If you forget everything else I said today, remember just this one line. Don't try to prove that you are powerful. Live in a way that shows your peace is your power. As we close, let me share one final metaphor. Have you ever seen a candle in a dark room? The candle doesn't scream, "Look at me." It simply burns. And by burning, it lights the way for others. That's what a wise woman does. She doesn't compete with the darkness. She transforms it. So, my dear sisters and brothers, be that candle. Wherever you go, let your presence bring warmth, your words bring hope, and your actions bring faith. Because when one woman becomes wise, her entire home becomes a temple. And when a generation of women becomes wise, the whole world becomes heaven. My dear friends, as we reach the end of this journey, let's take a moment to breathe. Yes, just breathe. You've listened, reflected, maybe even smiled or cried a little. And that's beautiful, because transformation always begins with feeling. When I travel and speak to people from different walks of life, I notice something profound. Everyone, man, woman, young, old, carries a silent prayer in their heart. I just want to be understood. We don't really seek perfection, we seek connection. But when the mind is clouded by foolishness, ego, jealousy, insecurity, that connection breaks. And when connection breaks, loneliness enters even the busiest hearts. A foolish woman blames the world for that loneliness. A wise woman turns inward and says, "Maybe I have forgotten to connect with myself." Let's pause and look back on what we've explored together. The 7 signs were not judgments, they were mirrors: comparison, talking too much, emotional impulsiveness, gossip, seeking validation, living in the past, and ego. Each one of these is like dust on a mirror. The mirror doesn't lose its beauty, it simply needs cleaning. And that, my friends, is the purpose of wisdom. Not to shame you for the dust, but to remind you that your reflection is still divine underneath. Let me share a story that captures this truth. A teacher once asked her students to bring a potato for every grudge they held. Some brought 3, some 5, some 10. She told them to carry the bag everywhere, to class, to lunch, to sleep. After a week, they complained, "Ma'am, it stinks, it's heavy." She smiled and said, "Exactly. That's what hatred and comparison do, T. Oh, your soul. You carry them everywhere and they rot from within. So, my dear sisters, if you're carrying grudges or insecurities, it's time to set the bag down. You can't fly with baggage that heavy. Now, let's talk about how to stay wise in a foolish world. Every day, choose presence. When you wake up, don't rush to your phone. Sit for a minute. Thank God for breath. Smile for no reason. Because gratitude in the morning is like armor for the day. It protects you from negativity. Then, choose silence. You don't have to answer every insult. You don't have to correct every misunderstanding. Silence isn't defeat, it's dignity. Remember, lions don't respond to barking dogs. And finally, choose service. Do one selfless act every day. Help a neighbor, feed a stray, call a lonely friend. You will notice that the more you give, the more you glow. A foolish woman thinks, "When I get everything I want, I'll be happy." A wise woman knows, "When I'm happy, I already have everything I need." The foolish woman says, "If only they changed, I'd be fine." The wise woman says, "If I change, everything will align." Happiness is not a destination, it's a decision. Wisdom is not a degree, it's a daily practice. Sometimes people ask me, "Gaur Gopal Das ji, how do I stay peaceful when everyone around me is negative?" And I tell them, be like a lotus. It grows in muddy water yet remains untouched by it. The mud is necessary. Without it, the lotus can't grow. Likewise, challenges are necessary. Without them, wisdom cannot blossom. So the next time life throws you into chaos, smile and say, "Ah, the mud is here, my lotus will soon bloom." To all the young women listening, the world may tell you your worth lies in how you look, but let me tell you this, real beauty is invisible. It's in your patience, your compassion, your courage, wrinkles, scars and stretch marks don't to make you less beautiful. They're proof you've lived, loved and learned. To the mothers, thank you for your silent sacrifices, your endless forgiveness, and your unconditional love. You are the first gurus of wisdom in every home. To the daughters, learn early that social media filters can never filter peace into your soul. To the wives, remember, you don't have to lose yourself to love someone. To the grandmothers, keep blessing us, your prayers keep the world standing. Now to the men listening, this message is for you too. Support the women in your life, not by controlling them but by trusting them. Don't mock their emotions, understand. Don't compete with their strength, complement it. Because when a man and woman walk in wisdom together, they create harmony, not hierarchy. They create families filled with respect instead of resentment. My friends, let's paint a vision of a wise world. A world where women don't tear each other down online, but cheer for each other's growth. A world where little girls learn to meditate before they learn to compare. A world where men measure success not by dominance, but by how gently they can lead. A world where wisdom is it. That's how you remember again. Just never stop trying to become wiser, kinder, and calmer. Because the world doesn't need more successful women, it needs more serene ones. It doesn't need more people with opinions. It needs more people with understanding. And remember, every wise woman was once foolish. The only difference is she decided not to stay that way. So as you walk out of this hall tonight, or as you close this page or switch off your screen, carry one resolve in your heart. I will not let the world dim my light. I will not let foolishness steal my peace. I will rise, reflect, and radiate wisdom every single day. And when you do that, my dear friends, you won't just change your life, you'll change the energy around you. Because wisdom, like fragrance, cannot be hidden. When a flower blooms, the garden benefits. When a woman becomes wise, humanity blossoms. My dear friends, we've talked, laughed, reflected, and maybe even healed a little together. But knowledge without action is like a lamp without oil. Bright for a moment, then gone. So tonight, or whenever these words reach your heart, I invite you to take this wisdom off the stage and into your life. You see, every speech ends in two ways. Some people clap and others change. I want you to be among the ones who change, quietly, steadily, beautifully. Let's turn wisdom into movement through 7 simple yet profound actions. One for each of the 7 signs we've spoken about. One from comparison to celebration. Every time you feel envy rising, pause and whisper, "Good for her, grace for me." Make it your mantra. When you see someone succeed, celebrate her. Why? Because blessings that you celebrate around you multiply within you. Comparison contracts the heart, celebration expands it. So this week, compliment at least 3 women genuinely. Tell a colleague she did great work. Tell your friend she looks radiant. And when you do, notice how light your heart feels. 2. From talking too much to listening deeply. Starting tomorrow, practice sacred silence for at least 15 minutes a day. Listen to the birds, to your breath, to the voice of your own conscience. When someone speaks to you, really listen, not to reply but to understand. The world doesn't need more opinions. It needs more understanding. You'll be surprised how many conflicts dissolve simply because you chose to listen. 3. From emotional impulsiveness to emotional intelligence. When anger rises, count your breaths. Inhale peace, exhale pride. Write down what you feel before saying it. You'll see that half of what you are about to say didn't deserve to be spoken. Let emotions serve you, not enslave you. Remember, strength is not in suppressing feelings, but in expressing them with grace. 4. From gossip to growth. Make a small vow. If the person I'm talking about isn't present, the conversation will uplift, not belittle. If someone brings gossip, redirect it. Let's talk about ideas instead. You might lose a few companions of drama, but you'll gain companions of peace. Each time you refuse to gossip, you polish your inner mirror, and slowly your peace will become your new popularity. 5. From validation, seeking to self-worth. Delete the habit of checking your worth through other people's reactions. Before you post, pause and ask, would I still value myself if no one liked this? Look into the mirror each morning and say, I am enough because I am divine. Repeat it until your reflection believes it. Why? You were never meant to be perfect. You were meant to be authentic. 6. From living in the past to living in the present. Let today be the day you forgive. Call that person, write that letter, or simply close your eyes and release the pain. Every memory you release frees space for new joy to enter. The past is a teacher, not a tenant. Don't let it rent space in your mind forever. Breathe in the now, that's where life truly happens. 7. From ego to humility. Every night before sleeping, thank someone silently. Humility begins in gratitude. Say to yourself, I don't know everything, and that's okay. Life is still teaching me. When you live in humility, criticism can't hurt you, and praise can't corrupt you. Your peace becomes unshakable. Now, let's translate these 7 actions into a daily practice, a living prayer. Morning ritual. Before touching your phone, place your hand on your heart and whisper 3 things. Thank you, forgive me, guide me. These 3 lines open every locked door inside you. During the day, when challenges come, pause and smile. Ask, is this an opportunity to react or to rise? Choose to rise. Even if you fail 10 times, keep choosing. Consistency creates character. At night, before sleeping, write 1 line, what did I learn today? Don't worry about big words. Even I stayed calm when insulted counts as progress. Small victories build mighty peace. Now, for my dear brothers listening, your call to action is equally important. Be encouragers, not critics. When you see a woman striving to better herself, don't mock her emotions or compete with her strength. Stand beside her. The measure of a man is not in how loudly he leads, but in how gently he empowers. And to everyone, here's a truth worth remembering. You cannot become wise overnight, but you can take 1 wise step tonight. Wisdom grows in moments of honesty, when who admit, yes, I've compared, yes, I've gossiped. Yes, I've been insecure. That honesty is not weakness. It's the seed of transformation. The tree doesn't grow the moment you plant it. It grows because you water it daily. Likewise, wisdom grows with small, daily, conscious acts. Let's visualize this together. Imagine if every woman listening chose even one action today. If every gossip turned into a compliment. If every comparison turned into celebration. If every argument turned into understanding. Can you imagine the vibration of such a world? Children would grow up seeing their mothers smile instead of sigh. Friends would support instead of compete. And homes would echo not with noise, but with laughter. That is not a dream, it's a decision. So, my dear sisters, here is your call to action. Simple, powerful, sacred. 1. Reflect. Every morning ask, am I living from wisdom or from worry? 2. Recenter. Whenever you feel lost, take 3 deep breaths and remind yourself, I am peace. 3. Respond. Replace reaction with reflection. Speak only when your words can heal. 4. Rise. Lift another woman today. Mentor. Appreciate support. One small act of sisterhood. 5. Radiate. Let your presence bring calm wherever you go. Become the peace you're searching for. If you can live even half of this list, you'll notice that foolishness fades without a fight. Wisdom doesn't need force, it needs practice. As we close, let me ask you one last question. When the world looks at you, what will they feel? Fear, competition, or comfort? Be the woman whose presence feels like sunlight. Warm, quiet, essential. Because one wise woman can ignite 10 others, and 10 can ignite 1,000. That's how revolutions of consciousness begin, not through anger, but through awareness. So tonight, as you walk out of this hall or close this page, make a promise. I will no longer live as a reflection of others' opinions. I will live as a reminder of grace, gratitude, and growth. That, my dear friends, is the essence of true wisdom. Not to be perfect, not to be famous, but to be peaceful, unshakably, unapologetically, beautifully peaceful. And when you live that way, the world around you quietly transforms. My dear friends, as the lamps dim and our conversation nears its end, let's sit together for a moment, not as speaker audience, but as souls who have traveled a small path of awakening side by side. We began this journey with a bold title, 7 Signs of a Stupid Woman. Some smiled, some frowned, some grew curious. But look where we have arrived, not at judgment but at understanding, not at criticism but at compassion. Because foolishness is never permanent, it is a passing shadow. Wisdom is the sunrise that chases it away. Let me ask you gently, what have you discovered about yourself during this talk? Maybe you realize you sometimes compare. Maybe you saw how you rush to react. Maybe you found a forgotten spark of gratitude inside. If so, smile. That's not guilt, that's growth. Awareness is the beginning of every transformation. When you know better, you naturally start doing better. And that, my friends, is the quiet miracle of wisdom. It doesn't shout, it simply shifts your choices. Life will still test you. Someone will still gossip and you'll be tempted to join. Someone will still flaunt success and you'll feel the sting of comparison. Someone will still misunderstand you and you'll want to prove yourself. But now you have a choice. You can pause, breathe, and ask, do I want to be wise or just right? In that pause lies your peace, your power, and your proof of growth. Let's revisit each sign once more, but this time through the lens of wisdom. Where comparison once burned, now gratitude blooms. Where endless talking once drained, now listening heals. Where emotions once ruled, now balance leads. Where gossip once echoed, now silence protects. Where validation once enslaved, now self-worth frees. Where the past once chained, now forgiveness liberates. Where ego once shouted, now humility smiles. Isn't that a beautiful transformation? The same moment, the same life, but a new way of seeing. I remember an old monk telling me, you can't calm the waves, but you can learn to surf. Wisdom is that surfboard. It doesn't remove the ocean's chaos, it helps you ride it with grace. So when emotions rise, ride them. When people test you, thank them. They are your gym for spiritual strength. And when life seems unfair, whisper softly, "This too shall teach me." Now, as we move toward farewell, I want to leave you with 3 final reflections. 3 gentle truths to carry like sacred pearls in your heart. 1. You are not broken, you are becoming. Every scar, every mistake, every tear, they're not flaws, they're fingerprints of growth. Stop saying, "I should have known better." Instead say, "Now I know better." 2. You are not behind, you are being prepared. The pace of your journey is perfect. Flowers don't bloom because they compete, they bloom because it's time. Trust your timing. Divine clocks never run late. 3. You are not alone, you are always guided. Even in silence, life is whispering, "I'm with you." When you can't hear answers, trust that peace itself is the answer. My dear sisters and brothers, wisdom is not learned in a day. It's learned in the way you cook a meal with love, even when tired. In the way you apologize, even when your ego resists. In the way you keep faith, even when the path is dark. Wisdom is built quietly like dawn, minute by minute, choice by choice. I once met a widow who had lost her husband and lived alone. She told me, "Guruji, my home feels empty." I asked, "Do you keep a lamp burning at night?" She said, "Yes." I smiled and said, "Then your home is not empty. The light is still there." That light, my friends, is within each of us. Even when the storms of foolishness blow, that flame never dies. It only flickers, waiting for you to shield it again with mindfulness. Before we end, let's do one last exercise together. Close your eyes for a few seconds. Think of one person you need to forgive, one person you need to thank, and one habit you need to change. See them clearly in your mind. Now breathe in deeply, fill your heart with compassion, and breathe out gently, releasing the weight. This is wisdom in action, forgiveness, gratitude, and growth, the Holy Trinity of peace. When you step out of this hall or turn off your screen, remember this simple line. Don't just listen to wisdom, live it, because the world doesn't change through lectures, it changes through living examples. Let your life become a sermon that needs no words. Let your smile preach peace. Let your patience preach strength. Let your kindness preach God. And when people ask you, "What did you learn from that talk?" smile and say, "I learned that foolishness fades when love enters." Because ultimately, all wisdom flows from love. Love for yourself, love for others, love for life itself. So, my dear friends, as I bow in gratitude, I leave you with this blessing. May you be strong enough to stay soft. May you be wise enough to stay humble. May you be brave enough to keep loving even when the world tests you. And may your heart always remember, you are not defined by mistakes, you are refined by mindfulness. You are not measured by perfection, you are remembered by compassion. If ever you forget today's message, remember just this one prayer. May my thoughts be clear, may my words be kind, may my actions be wise. Repeat it every morning. It will guide you better than any map. Thank you for listening not just with your ears, but with your hearts. May your days be peaceful, your nights restful, and your path filled with purpose. Remember, when one woman chooses wisdom, she lifts the world a little higher. So keep lifting, keep loving, and keep glowing. Because the world needs your light. Not tomorrow, but today.